Flashback to the summer of 2021. I had just gotten into the Pokemon trading card game and I went to the store to buy some Pokemon stuff. And I saw this one box. It was a Champion's Path box. It had Marnie on it and I'd never seen it before. I quickly Googled on my phone, like, what is this? And it turns out you could only get the packs inside the box if you bought one of the Champion's Path sets. So kind of like a Hidden Fates, Shining Fates, and so on. And I said, you know what? I'll go try that box out. And as part of it, I got this awesome, oh, it's upside down. I got this awesome Marnie playmat. This is still my go-to playmat when I play the game IRL. However, the set of cards that are in Champion's Path are actually quite horrible. I'm Jed from inthirdperson.com. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about the cards from Champion's Path. This isn't going to be a comprehensive breakdown of all the cards. It's not going to be a best of either. If we were to do a best of, it would be a 30-second long video. So we'll just go and highlight some of the bigger V and VMAX cards, as well as some unique trainer cards to the set. The most noteworthy card to come out of Champion's Path is Duraludon V. And not necessarily because Duraludon V is great, it's because later on they would release Duraludon VMAX, and of the two Duraludon Vs that were available, this one was a little better because it took less damage when hit. Now, most of the time, if your Duraludon is getting hit at the beginning of the game, you're probably screwed anyway, because it usually means your Duraludon's stuck in the active and your Arceus is on the bench. But this one is the one that gets played the most by virtue of it getting an evolution that was really good down the road. A card that did get a lot of play, though, was Alcremie VMAX. Now, it's been a long time since this card was relevant. However, it did have a place in the Shadow Rider Calyrex deck around the time of Chilling Reign, where its move G-Mask Whisk allowed you to do 60 damage for all the energy you discard across all your Pokemon, and it worked as a great finishing move when you needed that last big attack to win the game. One of the big chase cards coming out of Champion's Path was this shiny Charizard V. Other than the fact that it is a shiny Charizard V, there isn't really anything to write home about from a gameplay perspective. It's not even my favorite Charizard V. I think the Shining Fates Charizard VMAX is a lot better, IMO. The other big chase card for collectors out of Champion's Path is Rainbow Rare Charizard VMAX. Now, besides it being rainbow, it's basically the same Charizard from Darkness Ablaze, and it was really expensive because it's a Rainbow Rare Charizard, but from a playability standpoint, there's not really too much to write home about, other than it's kind of okay paired with Arceus, but other than that, really not much going on with this Charizard from a playability perspective. This one also introduced Venusaur V, and it's not really good. For 3 energy, 80 damage, plus sleep and poison, not good. Solar Typhoon for 3 grass and a colorless energy for 220, and you can't use that move again. No, this is not good at all. Eldegoss V has seen some play, actually, with Duraludon. This one has the ability Happy Match, where you can put it on the board and then grab a support card. Is it a trainer card or a support card? It is a supporter card from the bench, not from the bench, from the discard pile, and then put it back into your hand. This did win in a Arceus Duraludon deck in the 2022 season. But otherwise, this one hasn't really seen too much play. Incineroar V is not... I have this card. It was one of the first V cards I pulled. It's not very good. Kind of like the same reasons for the Venusaur one. It costs way too much, and it's not really worth playing. Even with Welder, this wasn't even a good fire type Pokemon to play. Wailord, this one I didn't even remember existed. 280 HP is crazy. Ocean Waves isn't entirely the worst. Yes, it's 4 water energy, but you could pair this with Frostmoth technically to cover the energy cost, and you flip 3 coins and could potentially do 360 damage. That's kind of fun, but it's all coin flips and not very good in the grand scheme of things. We also got Gardevoir V and VMAX here. We're actually going to talk about both of them in this case because Gardevoir V ended up becoming the featured Pokemon of a V battle deck. And it's got the move Swelling Pulse for 120 damage. Plus, if this Pokemon was healed during this turn, it does 80 more damage. It actually paired kind of nicely with the Clefairies that came with the theme deck, so you could heal off the bench and then hit for 200 damage. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. And then Gardevoir VMAX has the move Max Cure, 180 damage, and heals 50 damage as well. I actually helped my friend Chris recently build a Gardevoir VMAX deck that's pretty tanky. It seems like it's a lot of fun to play, and I'm glad she's doing amazingly well with this deck, even if it's not necessarily like a top tier deck. But she made this work, and that's awesome. Lucario V is not bad. There's actually a couple of Lucario Vs, and this is the best one of the bunch. It's got the move Beat Down Smash, 2 fighting and a colorless, 180 damage, and you can't use this move on the next turn. It's enough to one-hit KO an Arceus, but at this point, it's a little more notable because if you're playing a Lucario V-Star deck, this is the one that you would want. You'd want at least one of these. The one that discards special energy is all right too. Don't use the Fusion Strike one. That card is terrible. We have Dreadnought VMAX, and this one takes 30 less damage and has a attack Gmax Headbutt for 2 water and a colorless, does 160 damage, and you can flip a coin to potentially do 80 more damage. Maybe 240, probably not worth it at this point. It wasn't worth it back then, and in the era of V-Star Pokemon, definitely not worth it now. Galarian Cursola, this is a card that I used to see from time to time. It has the annoying ability, Gnawing Aura, where if your opponent attached an energy from their hand to a Pokemon, you get to put 3 damage counters on that Pokemon to soften it up a little bit. It was kind of annoying, but you could usually work through this because it only has 190 HP, and its move Hollow Missile only does 60 damage, and you can spread 3 damage counters. It really wasn't that much of a counter. Grapple-Locked V is one that didn't see any play really, and mostly because its attacks aren't very good. Tie Up for 20 damage and basic attacks not being able to attack. No, not that good. And same with Moonsault Press, where 120 damage and you flip a coin for 220, just not good enough. I'm actually kind of surprised we didn't see this card more. This is Altaria, and it has the ability Miraculous Charm, which stopped attacks from Pokemon V and GX. Kind of like Decidueye. I think the difference between Decidueye and Altaria is that Altaria does less damage with its move Speed Dive, which is only 60 for 2 colorless. So that probably led more people to play Decidueye, even though Decidueye was a stage 2 Pokemon. Nevertheless, you could cheese your way into wins with a deck like Altaria, because this was before time with like Canceling Clone or anything like that. Then there were only 2 items that were unique to Champion's Path, and they might actually be the best part of the set. One of them being Rotom Phone, where you got to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and put 1 card at the top. This synergizes incredibly well with Oranguru, with Mew VMAX, with Kyurem VMAX, and there are a bunch of decks that benefit from having Rotom in there just for improved consistency. And last but not least, we've got Suspicious Food Tin, where you can heal 80 damage by discarding at least 1 Psychic Energy. And so you would be playing a deck like a Gardevoir, where you have your 3 Psychic Energy on, you take a hit, you play Suspicious Food Tin, discard an energy, and then just reattach another energy and keep going. And there are a couple of decks that use this card as well, such as Dragapult VMAX is probably the most notable one. I think Mew may have had this for a little bit, but yeah, it's an okay healing card specifically for Psychic Pokemon. And that's it for Champion's Path. It's a set that has less than 100 cards, and most of these cards were not good from a playability standpoint. If you were buying Champion's Path, it was almost exclusively just to get the Charizard, and from a playability standpoint, you were out buying the singles for Duraludon V, and even then you probably were just fine with the regular with the Dragon Duraludon V that came from Evolving Skies. So that wraps up our look at Champions Path, which IMO might be the actual worst set in the Pokemon trading card game Sword and Shield era. I know the next set is often trashed for being not very good, and I think we have to weigh those a little differently because Champions Path is a special set versus the next set that we're going to talk about is Vivid Voltage. That's a mainline set. So because it's a mainline set, it might be the worst mainline set, but Champions Path might actually be the worst set we've gotten in the Sword and Shield era. Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know in the comments what you think. And before we go, some quick plugs. You can find me on all the things: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at In Third Person. You can also find me over at Twitch at In Third Person, where I stream the Pokemon trading card game every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Would love to see you there. And of course, check out my website, inthirdperson.com, for more articles and videos on video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. So until next time, we're out of here. Oh, my button didn't work. All right, we're out of here. Later.